What I expected. What I've discovered is when you're inside oldness, it's not nearly as scary as when you're looking at it from the outside. It's true. Picasso had it right when he said it takes a long time to become young. You know, it's not that I'm immune to aging. I got a fake hip, I got a fake knee, I've had breast cancer, so what's new? But these things don't define me. Now I wanted to know, is the fact that I feel so good, is this because I'm special? Is this unique to me? Or is this true for more people than we know? And if it is true, how come nobody's talking about it? That's why I did the research and wrote this book called Prime Time. You see, this question about oldness is really, really important, because what has happened over the last century is there's been a longevity revolution. We're living on average 34 years longer than people used to live. 34 years. That's an entire second adult lifetime. What are we supposed to do with it? How are we supposed to make it all that it can be? While I was doing my research, I discovered two metaphors for aging. One is an arch. You're born, you peak at midlife, and you decline into decrepitude. That's the old way of looking at aging, but there's a whole other way of looking at it. Ascending a staircase. Even if your body is weakening and there are age-related changes, you're ascending a staircase into happiness, into wholeness, into authenticity, and perhaps even into wisdom. I discovered, now this is really interesting, that I am not at all unique. There was this huge study done of hundreds of thousands of Americans from birth to death, and what they found out was, starting at about 50 years old, people tend to get happier, less hostile, less anxious, less stressed, less substance abuse than before you're 50. You know, I mean, I enjoy saying to 18-year-olds, the best is yet to come. I wouldn't want to go back for anything. And this well-being after 50 is true of men, women, whether you're single, married, whether you have children or no children. It's pretty much across the board now. The question is, how come? The scientists that did the study aren't absolutely sure why this is true. They think it has something to do with changes in the brain, but it mostly has to do, they say, with the fact that when you're older, you have this long backward view. Been there, done that, it didn't kill me. I can get through this again. You know what I mean? We know this too shall pass. It's really hard for younger people to wrap their minds around the this too shall pass concept. You know, older people, we know where the lion's hiding in the bushes. We don't have to keep going back and looking for it. We know what we need and what we really don't need. It's really hard when you're younger. You have this long future ahead of you. You don't know what you need to know and what you don't need to know, so you try to know everything and do everything and make all the contacts and all that. There's so many what ifs and if onlys and maybe I'll need. We're through with that. We know what we need and what we don't need. We don't make mountains out of molehills. I read an article last March in the New York Times. It was about a 57-year-old man named Neil Selinger. He'd been a lawyer. He retired retired and joined the Writers Institute at Sarah Lawrence, and he got ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease. This is a terrible disease that wastes the body and you die. There's no cure. But it doesn't affect the brain at all. I know this very well because I was in a play recently at the Amundsen on Broadway, thank you, where I died of ALS. So this guy wrote, this is what he said in this article, Mr. Selinger. He said, as my muscles weakened, my writing, so he joined a writer's workshop, okay? As my muscles weakened, my writing became stronger. As I slowly lost my speech, I gained my voice. As I diminished, I grew. As I lost so much, I finally started to find myself. That just blew my mind. And I know that this is true. That's what the mounting the staircase means. On one level, you think all is lost. You think you're being broken, when in fact you're being broken open to whole new possibilities and depths of feeling and understanding. Now, developing a good attitude, because mounting that staircase of aging it's about attitude. One of the things that I did, that I didn't even understand the value of it while I was doing it, I discovered in doing my research for Primetime, my new book, that it's something that doctors and psychologists actually recommend people doing, especially as they pass 50 and get older, and that's called doing a life review. And I talk about how to do it and why it's important. Like a lot of you, I hope not a lot of you, but probably like a lot of you, you grow up with parents that don't always know how to love, that don't always know how to show up. You know, the role of a parent is to look at their child and reflect that child back to them with love. That's how a child knows that they are worthy of love. If because of depression or addiction or narcissism, your parents have duct tape over their eyes, that's going to impact you. You know, my life review took the form of writing my memoirs. I dedicated my memoirs to my mother, who killed herself when I was 12. I never really knew her, except that I knew that something really bad must have happened when she was young. But the last time I saw her, she was brought home from the institution where she killed herself, and I refused to see her because I knew she didn't really love me. I was 12, and shortly after that she killed herself, and so I carried this terrible guilt most of my life. So I'm writing my memoirs. I have to find out who my mother was because I've dedicated the book to her as a way to force myself to do the research. I got the medical records from the institution where she killed herself, and as I go through all of these records from the nurses and the doctors, there was a little 15-page autobiography that they must have asked her to write when she was admitted. She had been a secretary, so she typed it and wrote little things in the margin, and what do I find out? She was sexually abused at 8 years old. Now, I had become an expert in sexual abuse, I mean, as much as a lay person can, because I work with adolescents, and a lot of the girls that, 1 out of 3 women in this country and girls have been sexually abused, and I knew a lot about it and the effect it has on a girl. So when I read my mother's little autobiography, I suddenly understood. Everything fell into place. Why she had been the way she was, everything from excessive plastic surgery, which is a form of cutting, promiscuity, lack of trust, inability to be intimate, and I realized it wasn't my fault. It had nothing to do with me. And you see, you go through life with these notions, it's me, I'm not lovable, it's my fault, I wasn't enough of this, or I wasn't perfect, or I wasn't that. When you do a life review, if you really go back and interview people who were in your family, your grandparents, your parents, and I write about how to do that, you likely will come to the point where you realize it had nothing to do with me. And you begin to understand who you are independent of who your family said you were. If we go through life carrying negative emotions and feelings about events and people in our past, neural pathways are created in our brains. They're not structural, it's electrical messages, energetic messages that are carried in our brains, and they become hardwired. If you continue to have these things and carry these burdens all your life, they become hardwired. Now, while I was writing the book, I read, maybe some of you have read this book. It's by Viktor Frankl. It's called Man's Search for Meaning. Viktor Frankl was a very famous philosopher, psychiatrist. He was in a concentration camp, a Nazi concentration camp for 5 years. And he wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning. And what he says in this book, let me see if I can find the quote. Everything you have in life can be taken from you. Everything. Except one thing. Your freedom to choose how you will respond to a situation. How you will relate to the realities of your life. What kind of meaning you assign them. What kind of attitude you cling to about them. And brain science and cognitive research shows that we can change how we feel about events and people. We can actually create new neural pathways in our brain. And this is why I come from a long line of manic depressives. I should be really screwed up. But I'm not. I'm happy, and one of the reasons is I did this life review and I discovered who I was within my own skin. And by hanging on to the new ways of looking at things, you recreate new neural pathways in your brain and they become hardwired. They become the new normal. And it can change everything. I'm really kind of going fast through this because I'm so late and I want to take Q&A.